That town is Boot, and Boot's my town. It's all I've ever known. But things have changed, and now I can never come home, even though I'm heading home. Listen to the cows in the paddocks. They sound like they're mourning. Mourn for my town. Mourn for me. This song that they just can't stop singing. My soul now sings. It's my town, I'm heading home, even though I can never come home.
Okay, let's get going. We have it's a real treat actually to have them both on tonight. I've had Richard on a few times, but to have Richard and David, we were going to reach out to Damien, but because Epstein, Damien's not really allowed to talk about Jews. So apparently, if Epstein's last name was Mohammed, we could have had him on, but it's not. So it's just the three of us. David, a real treat.
I'm not sure if you're serious or not, but I understand.
I think I spoke about the Jews once, but I think I got away with it just for 5 seconds.
Well, I'm not posting any of the memes you said. I think one I'm posting. Yeah. First off, David, how have you been? Haven't seen you, yonks. It's so good to see you, brother.
Likewise. Look, I've been fine, just busy, doing a whole lot of stuff, doing what we do. Pretty busy, doing all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah, well, mate, good to see you. I gotta have a visit up there, or maybe if you're down in Melbourne, we could see a film again. Next time I'll just give me a bit more warning, maybe.
Sure thing. Sounds good.
Sounds good, mate. So here we are. The Epstein nuclear bomb has dropped, hasn't it? Apparently there are 6 million files. Where have we heard that number before? I don't know.
That's an interesting number, isn't it? Where is that?
6 million.
It seems oddly familiar, that number. It's almost like someone's trying to send you some sort of signal, but
some kind of occult signal could be there. I don't know. Could be in the holly. Could have something to do with the holly.
Hey, why do you think they've released them?
Are any of you guys? Do you guys know any conspiracy theorists?
I've heard a couple.
No, because if you do, you need to take them out and buy them a beer because they've been right about every fucking single thing.
Yeah, this is the thing. And I think everyone kind of knows it, don't you? Everyone. I have left-wing friends of mine who support Palestine and all that stuff, and they're sharing Nick Fuentes videos. Seriously, they're sharing them in a non-ironic way. because they hate Israel so much. And he's quite far right and doesn't like Israel, doesn't really like Jews, to be perfectly honest with you. And you know what I mean? He's very popular in certain circles. So they send me this stuff, and it's like, I thought you were far left. They're like, oh no, we love what he says about Israel.
Straight out of the gate, gentlemen. Obviously, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's all fine, of course. But straight out of the gate, the first question that comes to me, is why are we seeing this stuff?
Oh, that's what I asked you. You missed it because Richard was talking. That's my first.
Right.
That's what I asked you, David.
Why are we seeing this
Why
stuff?
have they
Because
given it to us?
They don't have to bring this stuff out. They could have just buried it with all the other stuff that they bury every day of every week.
Well, I read your article.
So why are we seeing it?
I read your article.
Exactly.
So, you know, I mean, you see it as some kind of occult theater. You know what I mean? Like, so do you want to explain your thesis in the Cliff Notes? What's your theory on that?
Yeah, sure. Look, you know, and you can take this. I mean, I put an occult angle on it, and I use the word occult in a very broad meaning. You know, you can take it. I mean, obviously that word is quite poisoned for us. I understand. You know, we've all been exposed to all sorts of silly nonsense that we've been told is occult stuff. You know, but I mean it in the broadest, sort of simplest meaning of the word, which is hidden, and it has a connection to psychological warfare. I think. And, you know, guys, we've lived through this. We've lived through serious psychological warfare. We know what it looks like. We know what it smells like. And this is psychological warfare. And let me just explain why I think so, okay? Because here's my prediction, okay? And so as is so often the case, I'm so happy to be wrong about this. But here's my prediction, okay? So there's this huge document dump, and who knows if it's real, fake, and mixture. I have no idea,
100%.
okay?
100%.
But all sorts of names in there, you know, you could be forgiven for thinking that the whole system is completely stinking and rotten. I know, as I was pointing out to a friend just before, Bill Gates turns up at the Australian Open at the very moment that he's named in those files. Nothing happens. My prediction is that absolutely nothing will happen. Okay,
but hang on, he had to go on television.
A few scapegoats will get thrown out here and there.
He had to go on to
consequence will happen, okay? And what that means, right? What that means in a sort of psychological warfare realm is, okay, we've shown you your whole system of government and media and politics is rotten to the core. There's nothing you can do about it. We've now shown it to you, okay? What's this going to do to people? It's going to completely demoralize people. They're going to go back to living in a sort of bubble where they know they can't do anything about anything. And I think that is part of the design.
So you think they're showing off? Look,
I think it's an interesting
theory. I think there's an element of mockery in there as well. Look, we can show you. We do the most despicable things. We can't, ironically, perhaps, we can't even mention some of the things on this podcast that are alluded to in those emails, okay, because we'll get nuked immediately. But these people can, honestly, there's one guy in there, I'm sure you've seen this one. There's the Saudi prince who says how much he enjoyed the torture video. This is an email to Epstein. Says how much he enjoyed the torture video.
And what's weird too,
just imagine if you're talking about enjoying torture videos on Gmail. Imagine what the hell you're doing when you think no one's watching.
Yeah, that's right. 100%. Who made it?
Yeah. You know, I think your theory is interesting. I think maybe, you know, it sort of, you know, alludes to, you often present a kind of, you know, very totalitarian theory, you know, like, it's like, well, here we are. What can you do about it? You know, in a sense, we can't do anything about it. But I do think that people are, people are losing faith. And you see it across the political spectrum. People have lost faith in all sides of politics, you know, over this whole Epstein thing. And, you know, people are losing their jobs, like this Mandelson guy, this Jewish lord. He was very close to Starmer. He's lost his job. I mean, Bill Gates did have to go on television and say once again, oh, look, he regrets. You know, I mean, some of these people are having...
what a punishment.
No, I know that. I mean, obviously, Prince Andrew's had his life destroyed. I mean, you know, not that many people would care, but, like, obviously he would regret ever meeting this prick. And now, you know... Now, you got to remember it was a honeypot too, you know, and then also we need to be a bit more specific about what these documents are, because sometimes, you know, I think the most revealing things is like that one you said from the torture video, right? Somebody's writing to Epstein. It's a legitimate email, and they've redacted his name. There's no what's it called, like victim name. So there's no there's no victim to protect. All they're protecting is the person who says, "Oh, I like torture videos." You know what I mean? Hang on a minute, you shouldn't be protecting that name. So that is, and a lot of people have noticed that they're obviously protecting the perpetrators. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
we're seeing.
Now, I don't think that has the function that David, is saying. Everyone is noticing that they're protecting it. I mean, and you got people yelling out at Trump, "You're a pedophile protector." He gave somebody the finger at some factory too.
Yeah, but nothing will happen. Nothing will happen.
Yeah.
Nothing will happen. That's
theory.
My prediction.
You have this kind
nothing
of
will happen.
You're saying, but maybe something will happen. I know you always say nothing will happen, and there's that theory.
Can we back up a bit,
and I'm always right.
Can we back up just a sec? Just let's break it down, because I really feel we're being played. They're not showing this because we need to see it. They're showing to us for a reason, and we don't know the motive. And look at Prince Andrew. Now, say I took the both of you to Vegas, right? And we had a big party in a room. Say we did a no-go show live. It was bigger than Elvis. We're in a room. We're having a party. We got a few girls around. And I take a photo of you, David, on top of a girl like Prince Andrew. You would go, "I want that picture destroyed. What stays in Vegas happens in Vegas." And that picture,
he would say that too. He would.
That picture has gone out everywhere, and he's looking up and smiling at the picture. I don't buy it. I don't buy the Prince Andrew would go, yeah, take a picture of me on an underarm girl. I've been saying this all week. There's a few things. It's like they're giving you stuff, but not actually. They go, "Oh, it's in the codes. Jerky. Jerky means, well, jerky could just mean fucking jerky." It's just, I don't know. I just feel like I'm being played. I feel like I want to be.
It's psychological warfare.
Well, you're only getting half of it too. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that we're probably never going to get. I mean, obviously, anything that was essentially nuclear, they would have destroyed the document. And also, there are things to do with like accusations. So, like somebody, has made some accusation. Now, I mean, Epstein himself could have said to some girl he worked with, who maybe he paid money to, make this accusation against someone. So, when it's someone making an accusation, of course, often it will be true, but not always. Sometimes people are saying, like, that Trump had some party at Mar-a-Lago where he's like, his digital finger. That just didn't seem true, because if it was true, Biden would have released that document. You know what I mean? Like, some stuff like that. And there are different tiers of, and also too, you got to remember that like what you said, someone like Prince Andrew was ensnared in this by this way. Like, Epstein is hanging out with 20-year-old models like Victoria's Secret. You meet him at a party. They're 20, they're 21, 25. There's nothing illegal about sleeping with them. Any red-blooded male might go along and do that, you see. And then he starts hanging out with him a bit, and he likes him, and he's all complimentary. "Oh, the royal family, I love it." And, and then you get an invite somewhere to his house, and then he says, "Here's this other girl for you." And she's 16 or whatever, underage, whatever the legal thing is in that state. Then he's got him. And then, of course, he says to him, "Now, you don't want that to come out. And, now, there's some information for the royal family. Maybe you can speak to the Queen about Brexit so that Brexit doesn't happen." That's the whole purpose of it. That was the whole purpose of it. Now, we can go on.
Well, I think they hung
the
out
whole ritual of it. And, I agree with you, David, that there is that element to it. That's definitely there. And it's only ever hinted at in emails. We're obviously not going to openly discuss it. But it's important to realize that it really was a honeypot blackmail thing. And this has happened before. That the KGB did it. I mean, before this cabal that we now live under took over, probably since the death of JFK. I mean, the British intelligence did this. I mean, this has probably gone on way back hundreds of years ago. If you look at the writings of the Marquis de Sade, he portrayed this world that existed in the 1780s to 1800s. So this is when it wasn't all controlled by Jews, right? So this has gone on for a long time. This is maybe the way that elites have ruled the world. And now the Jewish elite that have taken over our world in the last 50 years, they are merely copying the tactics that were in existence before.
Well, this is how power works. This is the lesson, I think, of Epstein. I think the Epstein thing is incredibly important. I've said this for years. I'm sure you've heard me. You're sick of me saying it. But I think the Epstein thing is incredibly important because it does show you how power works in our system. I mean, this smoke that we're seeing from this Epstein thing, it's been everywhere. You've heard all the rumors about Australia, the 28 pedophile list, what's his name, Bill Heffernan wanted to pull it out in Parliament, yada yada yada. All the Adelaide stories we've always heard since I was a kid, all these stories about the High Court judges in Adelaide and yada yada yada, all this stuff. So there's always been this smoke here. This is how power works. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've told you this story before, but I'll tell it to you again briefly, right? So my old man, who's sadly no longer with us, you know, he was slightly involved in politics. You know, when I was a youngster, he was involved in some peripheral way in the beginnings of the Australian Democrats. You know, and before that, he was involved in a party called the Australia Party. And in these early days of the Australian Democrats, they asked him, I think it was probably the first election they ran in. I remember these conversations as a teenager, hearing the conversations around the House. So they asked him to stand as a senator for the Australian Democrats. I think it was probably in 1980 or whenever it was, the first election they ran in, around that era somewhere. And they asked him to stand as a senator. I remember these conversations happening with Don Chipp and Sid Spindler and all these guys. And they said, look, but the way that things are running, there's actually there's a chance that you'll get in, you know, so this is a real thing, you know. And he said, okay, well, all right, thank you. Give me a couple of days to consider it, you know. And then the old man came back and he said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not going to do it, you know. And as a you know, young teenager, I was like, oh, why did you say no? That sounds so cool, being in the parliament and politics and yada, 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 you know. And it was one of those classic dad sits you on his knee moments where my dad said, look, this is how it works, okay? They've got dirt on everybody in Canberra, and if they don't have it, they'll just make it up. You'll have a car crash, or they'll make up a photo of you in bed with a 10-year-old. He actually said that to me at the time. I remember.
Wow.
I remember really going, wow, okay.
Wow.
You know, they'll make up something. Oh, you know, he said, look, everyone's got some skeleton in their closet. Everyone's got some dirt in their background. They'll find it. They'll use it against you to keep you in line and control you. If you don't have it, if you're that rare creature that doesn't have it, they'll just simply make it up, you know. And that's how they control everyone. Everyone in Canberra has to play the game.
Well, everyone has a weakness.
My dad said, I don't want to do it. I don't want to.
Everyone has some form of weakness, and it can just be the weakness that you have a family member that they can threaten. You know, you have a loved one, you have somebody.
It doesn't matter.
A favorite child.
That's my old man, who was essentially a nobody, just on the periphery of politics. Okay, you know, in 1980 or 1979, wherever it was. And my point is, it was happening here then. And my old man knew about it. Okay,
yep. But we know it's David. Like Roy Cohn, who was like a Trump's mentor. Sure. He was a famous blackmailer, and he was a kind of Epstein. He was a homosexual Jew, and you know, he was blackmailing people quite openly. He was right wing, though. I mean, you know, and he helped hang the Rosenbergs, who were leaked the nuclear secrets back in the McCarthy trials. So, you know, it's a lot of history of this, and obviously, it's not just the
well, it's effective, isn't it?
The globalist cabal or the Zionist cabal.
Well, that's right, Michael.
Our own intelligence.
This is how power works. That's my overarching point. This is how power works. They have to keep you on the reservation, and they have to make sure you play the game. So how are you going to play the game? And if you're going to be in the big club, they need to make sure you're going to play by their rules. Okay, so if you want to be in the big club, you have to do this stuff. All right.
But in the past, they kept it secret. Like in the 60s and 70s, they kept all this stuff a lot more secret than they do now. Like in a sense, this is a kind of you know, it is a kind of mass awakening. You hear about the Great Awakening. They talk about the Great Reset. You hear about the Great Awakening. And that, you know, I mean, I agree with what you say that there is a kind of occult spell, but maybe their occult spell is backfiring. Because, you know, I mean, I agree there might not be immediate consequences, but I do think this is seeping in that essentially we are ruled over by, you know, depraved, psychopathic elite people.
Evil.
And this is Pizzagate.
Monsters, demons, to be honest.
This is the thesis of Pizzagate. This is the thesis of QAnon, right? Which every mainstream news, you know, from our own ABC to the mainstream, you know, CNN, they all said that's fiction. And yet here's evidence in these
Here it is.
files.
Here it is. I think it's straight out in black and white.
It's far more important, this release of this stuff. And I know you don't believe in Trump and all this stuff, but this is the very fact that this has come out under him. I agree he's not perfect. But
you want me to play that video, Richard, that you sent me?
Go on,
So this is
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones talking.
Blueprint of how it works, how it operates. And I knew he was worked for the Trilateral Commission I didn't. And then early on, Susie Wiles came in and they said, listen, we know there's all these rich people. They told us, sir, I'm not involved with him, but it'll crash the stock market. This is old case. You can't prosecute him anyways. Plus, look, you're all in these files with
his neighbor.
And they loaded all these lies. But then Ludwig got caught lying.
Yeah.
He's at the aisle and everything else. And Trump said yesterday, he said, I didn't know Ludwig did that. He lied. So Trump, according to my sources who were in the meetings, yesterday and this morning, called him and he said, listen.
Who called him this morning? Sorry.
He had meetings yesterday and today with his cabinet.
Oh, okay.
This is
Trump had it this morning. Okay.
This is exclusive.
Yeah.
No one knows this. I've talked to multiple people, one that was in the room and other people that heard about it, and also people that were delivering my message, which I'm here in Florida delivering to the family. Like, listen, you're committing political suicide, self-inflicted wound. We know you're not in there. I had Mark Mitchell go 3 months ago to the White House, show him the numbers. This is what's killing him. We know he's not involved already. We know it was over the stock market because I was the people that were at the meeting over a year ago, 13 months ago when he was president-elect. And they told him this. And I've said it probably 1,000 times on air. Folks, I don't agree with it. People said I'm covering up for it. I was just saying with their idea, their mindset. I'm not agreeing with that. It'll crash the stock market. You got hundreds of head bankers, heads of universities, heads of brokerage firms, the royalty, not
Bill
just
Gates as well.
Bill Gates, it just goes on and on. All of top Obama's people, it's all Democrats, 99%. But they came to Trump and they said, if you bring this out, it'll bring down the stock market. I probably said, let's not exaggerate, 500 times last year and a half that expect this to happen, because I was already told, don't expect this because this is what happened. And I said, you're making a mistake, they're going to stab you in the back. And they said, no, they're not. And I said, that's wrong. But notice Bondi 3 days ago, or Thursday, was in that congressional hearing. And she goes, it'll crash the stock market and bring down the system, I tell you. And people got the clips of me saying that like 100 times. So, but finally Trump got, oh my God, it's going to crash anyways. I've been double crossed. So this morning, he said, you're all fired. This is people in the meeting.
Wow.
He said, you're all fired. He said, I want, by the way, behind the scenes, Trump used to cuss somebody else. You see when he's hoarse, he goes, I'm sorry, I'm screamable. He said, listen, motherfuckers, I'm sick of being tied to this shit. I'm the one that dropped a dime on him 18 years ago. He goes, you're all fucking fired if it isn't fucking released. Do you fucking understand me? They released the whole list of anybody's files. Oh. They released 3 million more files. And Trump said, I will fire every goddamn one of you.
Well, that's legit.
I ain't buying it. I don't buy it for a second.
I know.
I don't
buy it for a second
either.
No, I mean, obviously you have to. You have to wait.
Sounds like more bullshit. I have to come clean. I think Alex Jones is totally compromised. I think he owes someone $1 billion, and I think they got him. And I think that's that. And also on top of that, I would add, crash the stock market. I don't give a shit because our leadership cast, the media and the leadership cast, the whole political class are completely implicated in this. Okay, they're either involved or they're silent, okay? When Bill Gates turns up at the Australian Open, Plod should be putting a hand on his shoulder and going, excuse me, Mr. Gates, we just want to take you out the back and ask you a few questions about your involvement with this network, if you don't mind, sir, okay? Because none of that has happened, and it will not happen.
You're not going to see it happen.
All these institutions are completely compromised, okay? And we know it.
Well, you're never going to see it happen in Australia. There's no way Albo's going to, haul Bill Gates over the coals. You know what I mean?
Why not?
But look,
why not?
Okay, you're a Trump skeptic, and I myself,
I'm beyond skeptic.
I'm definitely. I know you are. You have no faith in him whatsoever. I have some faith in him. I think that he's doing some good thing.
It's an emotional position.
I don't think he's compromised by Epstein, but I believe he's compromised in other ways. The interesting thing about that guy Lutnick is kind of his right-hand man, and Lutnick was literally the neighbor of Jeffrey.
Neighbor of the beast.
The neighbor of the beast. So this is literally the level of cabal, and he's always there. Like a kind of like that character
hanging in the background, like the Grim Reaper
in Trump's ear. And also, and Joe Biden had one too. He had, that Jewish Secretary of State Blinken. He had another one. He was always there, just standing behind him, literally like a puppet. Like a puppet master.
I can tell you, if anyone was serious about tracking this shit down, okay, it would be so easy, all right? It would be so simple. And I'll tell you exactly how you could do it in 10 minutes, all right?
Of course.
Bank records, okay?
No, I mean, obviously they're aware.
Bank account, okay? They keep bank records, okay? So you just look at who paid money into Epstein's accounts, because I see no evidence that the guy ever did a day's work in his life. Okay, so someone's throwing hundreds of millions of dollars into that guy's bank account. Okay, and we
Did
know
you see
why.
the documentary on that, David? Because I was
No.
waiting in the documentary about Epstein. I'll be very quick because I'm really into what you're saying. But in it, they got to how he got his billions, and they said, oh, and he was working for this billionaire stock market, and the guy gave him all his money, and they moved on. I was like, excuse me.
Yeah. No one gives you a half $1 billion.
I gave you all the $1 billion, just like, I really like
that.
No,
I mean, it was too.
Les Wexner gave him a couple of $100 million.
It was too
consulting services. Okay, consulting. That's some serious consulting going on there. Okay. Epstein never did a day's legitimate work in his life. Okay, so all you do is you get his bank records. I'm sure the FBI have already got his bank records because banks keep records. Yeah. You see who's paid money in, and you see who he's paid money out to. Okay, follow the money. It's as simple as that. You could wrap it up in half an hour. Okay, who's paid
but obviously they don't want to wrap it up because, in a sense, when someone like Pam Bondi says, they talk about arresting people, and she says, but look at the Dow. I mean, basically, she's saying, listen, the satanic pedophile system works. Look at how well the economy's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the world goes, we don't care if it works. We don't want to.
I know that. I know that, but that's what she's saying. And the people.
Well, actually, it's interesting. No, your point, Richard. Your point is very interesting. Actually, your point is very, very interesting. Okay, because this is the Faustian bargain, isn't it? This is the Faustian bargain. Okay, do you want the cash, or do you want not to be ruled over by satanic pedophiles? Which one do you want, people? Make a choice. Okay, you can make a choice. It's biblical.
And there was that other.
A man cannot serve two masters. Okay,
that black guy
cannot serve two masters. Make your choice. Which one is it?
The black guy at the Denver airport who was saying, "Listen, because we have got about half of them." From what it appears. Now, I mean, as I said, the stuff that to me seems the most authentic, which is emails either from Epstein directly to people where he's talking about something dodgy, or when somebody is sending an email directly to Epstein talking about something dodgy. I think they are the ones that are the most, what you call
I understand your point, of course, but I actually think the whole network, I think everybody greasing up Epstein is entirely immoral and revolting. Okay, you've got the Dalai Lama in there swapping like kind of PR notes. You've got Deepak Chopra, that slimy guy.
I mean, you've got your hero, Noam Chomsky.
They're talking about underage girls together.
Your mate, Noam Chomsky.
They're all in it together.
You used to love Noam Chomsky. What about Chomsky? You used to love him.
Chomsky, up to his eyeballs in the whole thing.
No,
I abandoned Chomsky over JFK in 9/11. When he said, doesn't matter, I went, okay.
Well, he's Jewish, isn't he? He's Jewish. He's part of the gang.
What's the guy in the wheelchair, the black holes guy? The guy spoke through a robot.
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking was a replier. I mean, what did they get for Stephen Hawking?
Look, someone like Stephen Hawking. I mean, there is a funny meme. There is a funny meme online, which is if you got raped by this guy, they use the N word actually. If you got raped by this N word, it's on you. In the sense, obviously, he completely, can't move. You know what I mean? I think he was wooing scientists and people like that who might have, gone to the island to partake in some conference. I mean, I can't see Stephen Hawking going there for the dirty reasons. Of course, it's possible. You never know. I mean, maybe he had a twisted mind from being in a wheelchair all his life.
Let's look at it from another angle, because they're trying to say that Oprah Winfrey was basically the one who organized. She's the one that buys all the women and gets all the women across. Ellen DeGeneres is apparently the number 1 cannibal.
What does that mean? See, where is the evidence of that? I never saw evidence of that.
That's what I'm saying. It's in there and it's coming out. But I'm saying, but where's the hard evidence? How about some facts? Like, because they're saying about they eat the adrenochrome because it makes them look younger. Well, have you seen Ellen recently? It ain't working. Obviously old. She's eating the wrong baby.
There's that guy Peter Nygaard. Have you seen the video of him? He's like he's a Jewish Canadian billionaire who he likes black women, and he takes their stem cells and directs them directly into it. And he's under arrest now for underage whatever trafficking or something. Peter Nygaard, his name is, and he looks terrible now. Like he looked, good when he was getting the blood and everything. But that's kind of literal vampirism. That kind of thing is there. But you've got to remember that this stuff, it is peripheral. It is peripheral to all this. There's not what you'd call in any of the files we've seen concrete proof of the worst of the worst.
That's right, Richard.
But
that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
It's like
I slightly disagree with you, fellas. I slightly
dodgy.
disagree, though I understand your point. I'll go back to what I said before. So the Saudi prince is now been identified. The Saudi prince says,
Who was it?
"Hey, mate, really enjoyed the torture video." Like I said, if you're saying that on Gmail, what the hell are you up to on the weekend?
Obviously, this is what we're dealing with here is with Epstein. It's the Jewish, it's the Jewish and Israeli world, right?
Sorry, Rich, but I'm just saying that the prince of Dubai or wherever he's from couldn't afford the barristers. Couldn't afford the barristers to get him off that charge. Just one email.
What charge?
Can you imagine what goes on?
Even the accusation.
Can you imagine what goes on inside these kind of hermit kingdoms like Saudi Arabia and places where there's this like totalitarian control? The United Arab Emirates, where slavery is pretty much legal. In a lot of parts of Northern Africa, places like Mauritania, these are human trafficking hubs and everything. And of course, no one's leaking on anybody there because it's all just it's like a giant black hole. A lot of this stuff. Obviously, this Epstein thing, because Epstein did exist in a semi-legitimate world. You've got to say that he was hanging out with semi-legitimate people, and not all of them. I mean, there's just an email where Elon Musk is like, "I'd like to come to your parties," and doesn't get the invite. I think they probably thought, well, see, again, that proves that probably at the surface level, Epstein had a reputation as a party guy who hung out with 25-year-old or 20-year-old Victoria's Secret models. And that might appeal to Musk, but he didn't know anymore. So I don't find that suspicious. And, of course, he's one of the major voices now trying to out him and stuff. So that's why I think there's a lot more nuance.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious, gentlemen, that the way that it works is if you want to play in the big club, you have to say yes to this stuff. That's right. It's the Faustian bargain.
That is right.
If you want to play in the big club, because it appears like basically everybody who's in the big club, everybody who has access to politics and the media, all these frankly talentless people who you see paraded in front of you who've got nothing to offer, they're absolute talentless hacks, but they've said yes. They've said yes at the key moment to the big club, to the invite. Okay,
but interestingly, because Epstein has always been kind of portrayed as some kind of genius, but his emails reveal he writes like a teenager. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have the mental development. I mean, he does seem to have some kind of knowledge of things like mathematics and science in the sense like he has some kind of interest in that. But of course. That's the trend.
He also seems to be absolutely everywhere, talking to everyone all of the time.
That's
How
incredible,
does one guy? Honestly, it looks pretty kind of supernatural and a bit demonic to me. Because, how's one guy? He's not only is he flirting with the princess of Norway and God knows what. He's also funneling buckets of money to morons like Kevin Rudd, for Christ's sakes, Kevin Rudd's stupid think tank. Oh wow, that's gonna.
And he's hanging out with Paul Keating's daughter.
Paul Keating's daughter. Epstein is frigging everywhere all the time. It's not. Is it possible?
No, but hang on a second. I think this is something to think about. And I've actually heard this from other people that this is actually the way that they all are at this level. And it's just that we just happen to have caught this butterfly, this evil butterfly of Epstein. And that there's just there's a whole swarm of butterflies at that elite level. There's, I don't know, 100 of them, 1,000 of them. Who knows?
Butterflies is the wrong analogy.
Well, not butterflies.
Maybe.
Tarantulas, maybe?
Tarantulas.
Okay, well, let's say tarantulas.
Not butterflies.
Or scorpion. Okay, so that's what we've caught once, and we have a pristine, and I think, in a sense, you can see all the people who were involved with him did not expect, Bill Gates didn't expect to have to come out and go, look, I'm sorry. When he did an interview here, I mean, he was also planning the pandemic. Obviously, that's a big issue for this show. He was planning the pandemic with Epstein in 2017. And that's actually in an email.
we can
And he
pull
goes,
it
I
off.
hope we get away with it.
That's what
hope
I
we can
mean.
pull it-
He's everywhere, always. He's everywhere. He's at the start of
Yeah.
Bitcoin. He's at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah, there's a
that's
rumor
great.
he is.
Like,
everywhere.
figures in all the big pies. You know what I mean?
There's a rumor he is that Satoshi. What's the name of that guy who started Bitcoin?
Yeah, Satoshi, the Bitcoin guy. Yeah.
You are
There's a
kidding
rumor.
me. That Epstein
No.
is Satoshi.
Yeah.
There's a rumor.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a
yeah.
few friends who are experts, as I know he isn't, but the very fact that he could be.
But
is
nobody
really
knows who Satoshi is. So how can you
no,
say
no,
who he is and who he isn't? You know? Yeah. Here's another thing I get from this stuff, right? And I haven't dived in completely because it all feels a bit black magic to me, as I've explained to you. But here's another takeaway I get from this stuff, right? Seeing this and seeing how connected Epstein is and how he's talking to absolutely everybody makes me much more open to the idea that he is not dead. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
You don't kill a guy who's such a big wheel. If he's just running your blackmail operation and it gets a bit awkward, bump him off. Fine, I understand.
Well, have you seen the Maxine, Gerald, his partner in crime? What's her name?
Ghislaine.
Maxwell.
Yeah, she did. She had to go on video for a court thing, and everyone's putting her face with her face. Her nose is different. Her eyes are further apart. They're going, it's not her. It's
they're doubles.
Not her.
They're doubles.
I think that's possible. That's certainly possible. I think this level of operation. I mean, you are dealing with essentially spycraft. We've all watched. We've all watched James Bond. Epstein is a kind of Bond villain of which Ian Fleming he makes Goldfinger look like an amateur, doesn't he? You know what I mean?
He absolutely does.
I mean, Blofeld is the only one, of course, with the fouled surname, of course, and the white cat, is the only one that comes close. Because he was somebody who was the head of.
The thing with Epstein is it appears from just a glimpse I've had of this tiny amount of these emails that he's a complete wheel. He's a deal maker for all of these situations, AI, surveillance stuff. Palantir, blah, 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 all this stuff. Epstein's in the middle of all of it, okay?
All of it, yeah. It is
so
kind
you
of
don't
like...
kill that guy. You don't kill that guy. He's too useful, okay? He knows too much. He's too useful. You spirit him off to warmer crimes, but you don't kill that guy. So I'm actually more open than I was to the idea that he's not dead.
They didn't kill him. He hung himself with his toothbrush. So,
so they say.
It's a bit like.
I mean, there's a rumor. I saw the rumor. I don't know how much credence to give it, but I saw the rumor that someone has been using, believe it or not, Epstein's Fortnite account. Somebody has been using his Fortnite account in Israel up until very recently, and various rumors like this. I have no idea, if that's credible or not.
But we don't have any idea. That's the thing. They're not going to show us anything they don't want us to see.
Yeah.
And the question is, why do they want us to see it?
I don't know about that. I do think that there are some people in these. I mean, I'm sure Prince Andrew didn't want this to be seen. I'm sure this Mendelssohn guy, Lord Mendelssohn,
everyone on the list.
There has been some collateral damage within elite circles, of which I imagine there's this saying, well, you were too careless or whatever. You've dropped yourself in this by, and I guess the elite can take some collateral damage. To their operations.
I think they want to taunt us with the fact that this is the control mechanism on our society. Our control mechanisms, the political class, the media class, they all stink to high heaven. They are wholly rotten to the core.
Yeah, I think that black guy in the Denver airport. I don't know if you have that video, Michael.
Yep. No, I don't, but I've seen that. He loses.
Yeah, you can look it up. If you just put black guy at airport, he's literally saying, "Listen, you've seen the files. Like, why don't you do something? Because it is it's a kind of thing in the past that might have triggered a French Revolution, or it's like at least some kind of toppling of the government, because it is deeply, deeply scandalous
and to get good views.
And it does tie into what David's saying that people are kind of accepting it. You know what I mean? Like, and moving on, and obviously Trump has said that too. Well, let's move on. Blah blah blah.
So in the occult realm, Richard, building on what you're saying, in the occult realm, there's a thing called the revelation of the method. Okay, this is a term used in the occult. Okay, so when they reveal the method through whatever means, through the media, through movies, through whatever it is, and you do nothing, you remain silent, but they have revealed what's happening. That is taken as your consent. Okay, So when they reveal in the Epstein files that, they torture people for kicks, I'm going to assume there's human sacrifice going on. I'm going to assume there's all sorts of horrific things that I don't even want to think about going on. Okay. When they present that to you and you do nothing, you acquiesce with your silence. You are giving your consent. Okay. When they present that's called revelation of the method.
Because people don't rise up, we really are actually giving our consent. In a sense, we do kind of know.
Right.
So it's not even at an occult level. It's not even at an occult level. It's in the sense we sort of know now. And as you said before, you don't always get caught down in every detail. It's just the insidious quality of it. And there, obviously, the Trump's camp always tries to say, well, it's mainly Democrats. But there's enough. The very fact that while he's saying that, the very guy standing next to him is Jeffrey fucking Epstein's Jewish neighbor, Lutnick. You know what I mean? Like it proves that it's clearly in the Republican camp.
I think this is the last. Honestly, Richard, I know you're emotionally committed to this stuff. I understand, but I do think this is the last nail in the coffin of Republicans versus Democrats, Liberal versus Labor, blah 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 blah. They're all there. They're all either in the club or they desperately want to be in the club. They'll do anything. I mean, let's look at this sort of forensically. Okay, you didn't go to Epstein Island not knowing what you were in for. Okay, you didn't go there because the snorkeling was so great. Okay, you went to Epstein Island because you knew. Okay, you knew, unless you're a complete moron. Okay, maybe Joe Biden, who knows, but unless you're a complete moron, you go to Epstein Island because you want to join the club. Okay, and the way you join the club is
to go to Epstein Island.
you go off with some 12-year-old Russian girls and they film you and now you're in the club and they've got you. So that's not really, I would argue that's not really classically, you couldn't call that blackmail. Maybe you could call it consensual blackmail. Okay. Because you're going there knowing what's going to happen and you agree. And that's like you signing this sort of membership form for the club. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Peter Thiel. There's a good email. Children. There's a good email from Peter Thiel from Jeffrey Epstein. He says, by the way, I represent the Rothschilds. I mean, which ties into classic theory, that's been around for 100 years. You know what I mean? Like, and the other thing is, like, there was a certain regime from about 80 years ago that kind of said this kind of thing was going on. You know what I mean? And that was why.
My history's a bit wonky, Richard. Who was that?
Somewhere in Middle Europe, there was this regime that said that there was this evil group of people that were doing all these terrible things, and that's why they were behaving in this extreme manner.
Romanovs, the Tsar of Russia.
There was the Tsar,
Just go back a bit, though, David.
Luxembourg. It was around
something to do with Austria and painting.
Let's just go back to the forensic thing you said, David. Another thing that gets me is, say the three of us committed a crime. Say we robbed a bank or a train. We're the great train robbers of Australia. And we didn't think that Richard could keep his mouth shut. And we don't want to go to jail forever. So logically, we'd sit together and we go, well, we'll probably have to kill him. And that was just to keep us safe.
Look what they're doing. They're plotting to kill me tonight.
I'm not going along with this, by the way.
And if you've got,
and I'm getting a lawyer. Hang on, I'm just going to go.
Wait on.
Michael wants to kill me,
and they're killing children. Why would they let some go? So they've got these witnesses that are going, they were killing children. I saw it. They're going, well, why didn't they kill you?
Well, I do think that there are levels. As I said, I disagree with what David said. I honestly think when Musk, because there is this couple of legitimate emails where Musk was saying, I'd like to come to one of your parties. He probably didn't know exactly what it was at that stage. And then later on, he's obviously, it's found out. So I think there were elite people. And I don't think Prince Andrew instantly thought, oh, great, this 15-year-old's like, and I want to go and like destroy my whole life and get kicked out of the royal family. That was not his first thought. His first thought
I think he's too stupid to think.
Well, sure, okay.
10 seconds ahead, to be honest.
Okay, but I do think there are levels, and it seems like the worst level is the one that, there are code words and things like this, because they talk about, models and stuff, and even teenage models, they talk about reasonably openly in emails. But the worst
They're definitely
stuff,
eating a lot more pizza than your doctor would recommend.
That's true. And there's a lot of people who are, who are wealthy and have their own dietitians. There's a lot of pizza, a lot of jerky. We don't know exactly what that means. There's rumors about that. I mean, the interesting thing is the whole Pizzagate, the pizza word ties into Pizzagate, because this has become to be so true. Why is there not now an investigation of the whole John Podesta and James?
I can't imagine why. Could you tell? Can anyone enlighten me why there might?
I mean, people have done their research on that.
I'm in the dark.
Have said that that's even worse. I mean, think about one that's worse than Epstein. I mean, Epstein's pretty fucking bad. You know what I mean? The very fact that and that was operating out of Washington, D.C. And then you got people like, what's the name of that guy, Graham? He's always like, he goes to Israel every 2 weeks. What's a senator from whatever state in America?
Lindsey Graham.
Graham. What the hell have they got on him, mate? What the hell have they got on him? And he said the future of wars are being planned in Israel. I thought, we've got that right,
Yeah.
It's interesting though that if it is true that they're eating kids, the other thing today, we saw a missing files, because people are saying these thousands of kids are missing in Australia, but we were in, wasn't it a caravan park, and they had missing persons on the walls, but there was no children on it. It was all teenagers and mainly mature people. And yeah, look, maybe it is true. Maybe I'm just too naive or too soft to believe that. Like when they said Ellen DeGeneres introduced eating children, tortured children to Epstein, I'm thinking, how do you do that conversation? At what part of the conversation, when you're having tea or coffee or a few drinks, do you sort of broad the subject of, would you like to start eating children? Because either they're for it or they're going to look at you like, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Again, I think it's like levels. You know what I mean? There's the intro level, which is relatively innocuous, and then there's the first illegal level, which involves teenage girls or boys or whatever, and then there is the level beyond that, which would probably be the most secretive level. And
I mean, this is how secret societies work classically. Some people would know
initiation.
That's right. In the initiation, in the Freemasons, for example, at one stage, you have to lie in the coffin and you have to recite for all the members present your sexual history, in great detail, your entire sexual history. You lie in a coffin with a noose around your neck and you recite your entire sexual history to the group that's gathered there. That's an initiation to bond them all together, so they share a secret together. Okay, that's how initiations.
And actually, that's how Scientology works together.
So they have a shared sort of trauma, shame, information, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And so it just builds on that. Okay. So, I mean,
that's really,
there's nothing off the table, is there? There's nothing off the table.
That's what we did when we first set up the Goat Show. Remember at that party, we were all virgins. It was amazing.
I don't remember any party, and I wasn't present, and my lawyer is sitting next to me. And I've never met you two gentlemen.
And I want
before.
to say the other thing too. While I'm holding out that hopefully Oprah isn't this.
I think some of that stuff.
You have
to take.
But if it does come out, if they really do have the evidence, I'm not for the death penalty. But this all of them have got to die. This is like a cancer we have to remove from humanity. Even if there's other cancers out there, we've uncovered this one as well.
I agree with you. Let the stock market fall. Would you rather have a functional stock market, which is all fake anyway? The economy is completely fake anyway. It's all just smoke and mirrors. Okay. Or do you want to have a society that's not ruled over by demons?
But hang on, David. This is a slight problem I have with your article. David, is that it's a little bit too, monolithic in the sense that, I do think that this shows cracks in the elite, and that, obviously, I don't think we'll ever get the worst stuff, because they probably, they can't release it, in the sense like it literally would bring down, the major governments of the world. Obviously, that's what should happen.
Bring them down.
I know that, but things like the military would go. I don't think we can do that. You know what I mean? Because we will have a revolution.
Well, then they're implicated. Because really,
we know that. That's what we've discussed.
In a perfect world, that's exactly what we need. We need the the huge nasty broom to clean out all the muck. Okay, that's what we need, but it won't happen.
But it's like a kind of beast that has its own inertia, though, that we're living in. We're living inside the belly of a beast that has its own inertia, and that I do think it's interesting, though. And one of the reasons I still like Trump in that is because, world politics is moving further to the right. It's now people like Nick Fuentes are ready to go on CNN practically. You know what I mean? Like, and you've got the far right popularity parties like Reform. You've got Trump. You've got Marine Le Pen. You've got Pauline Hanson rising in Australia. And then you've got this guy, Reform UK. There's now a new guy called Restore UK. Can't remember the guy, but he's saying that even if you're here with your own passport, you've got to go back. You know what I mean? Like, and there are millions that have got to leave the UK because we're going to retake our countries. So this slow move towards the far right, I think, is important and valuable. And that's, to me, the value of Trump, because we can't get to where we really want to be unless we go through this traditional stage, which I'll admit isn't perfect, which I'll admit is probably compromised by all kinds of horribleness, of which David is very articulate in pointing it out. But I don't
with all due respect, Richard, I completely agree. I think you're falling for this argument that we've been sold for so many decades.
You said you agreed.
The lesser evil. We'll vote for the lesser evil because Trump's not as bad as Biden and blah, blah. Tweedledee's not as bad as Tweedledum and blah, blah, blah. And where's that got us? It's got us in this shithole that we're in, okay? This is the game they play with us. They put up Tweedledee and Tweedledum and they go, look, see, Tweedledee's
but there's something extra going on at the moment. And look, this happens with all powers. I mean, if you look at it historically, even say go back to ancient Rome, that, like the whole apparatus of the Caesars began to collapse under the weight of someone like Caligula. So maybe we're in a kind of Caligula kind of moment at the moment. And I know you've even had thoughts of that yourself. Like when a certain level of chaos, people seek a much more orderly system. I don't think it is quite as hopeless. And that the danger of some of the writing that you do sometimes is you present an almost, it's all, they're always like black magicians and everything's part of their conspiracy. If everything was so hopeless, what would be the point in resisting them?
You see, I understand your point, Richard. I understand your point.
I've got a short video to test that theory. This just went live on Twitter. Okay, I called it "We're fucked."
系统是人工系统。
开始。
是 AI 技术的快速发展。
Yeah, I mean, we're arguing about.
Do you think for 1 second that Daniel Andrews wouldn't have used those if he had them?
Yeah.
I think, we're arguing about Epstein on. Yeah, I mean, you've got this stuff just coming down the road really quickly. You've got China. I mean, China, again, is a kind of hermit. I mean, God knows what goes on in China in elite circles. I can imagine it's equally unpleasant, and that it's not as if it's new, because we all knew about the torture rooms of Stalin. We all knew about the torture rooms of Mao, the Cultural Revolution, which is essentially cancel culture, by the way. The whole desire we see of wokeness, cancel culture, diversity, equity, inclusion. This is the Cultural Revolution. So, I think we just need to be, aware of this, I agree with a lot of what David says. I just don't think we should always portray them quite as monoliths. We need to look for cracks in the monolith. Yeah.
Can I ask you?
Michael? Could I just respond quickly?
Yeah, sure.
To what Richard's saying. I understand your points. Obviously, look, I don't. I feel like you're presenting that argument a little bit sort of in a reductionist kind of way. What I argue for is complete rationality. Okay, well, I feel like if we're going to move forward in any constructive way, we have to look at things completely realistically. And I don't think getting lost in the Labor Party versus the Liberal Party, blah 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 blah, all that crap is going to do us any good whatsoever. We have to be cold, hard, and rational. And I do think this is my 1 sentence solution right now. I think the entire political class and the media class and the big club is entirely rotten from top to bottom. So you've got to exit. We have to exit that system as much as we possibly can. Okay. So once you realize that the government that's demanding you do this and do that and giving you orders and all sorts of stupid crap is completely compromised on every level, walk away as much as you can. Just walk away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we could all go live up the country like you and have nothing to do with it all. But
no, you can. There's different ways you can do it. Okay, just don't give them power. Don't give them power.
Yeah, but I still think that I mean,
okay, we've got
I do think we have
House joining us.
politicians.
So if you thought it was loud now,
no, you can. There's different ways you can do it. Okay, just don't give them power. Don't give.
Yeah, but I still think that I mean,
okay, we've got
I do think we have
House joining us. So if you thought it was loud now,
Dr. Sleep.
There's different ways you can do it. Okay, just don't.
why we got
why we got an echo? We've got David Thrussell on repeat.
We got me on loop at last. Sanity
Finally.
at last.
Sanity.
Just keep it going. Keep that going for a couple of hours. I think things will improve.
And Michael's gone silent. We can't hear him.
Evening, Paul. How are you?
Dr. Paul.
how's that? Can you hear me now?
I seem to have introduced chaos where I was
Right.
hoping I would.
And Michael's happening. Can't hear him.
Evening, Paul. How are you?
The Mossad agent is in the building. The Mossad agent is in the building.
Right.
And Michael's happening. Can't hear him.
Hey, David.
The chaos. It's all stopped. As soon as he appeared, all stopped.
Go ahead, Paul. What did you want to say?
I was enjoying your conversation. I don't know. I didn't intend to introduce chaos. I was agreeing with David.
The chaos. It's all stopped. As soon as he appeared, all stopped.
Go ahead, Paul. What did you want to say?
I was enjoying your conversation. I don't know. I didn't intend to introduce chaos.
Wow, that was interesting. The chaos. It's all stopped. As soon as he appeared. Mate, the conversation was getting a bit spicy, I think, maybe for everybody.
That was quite hallucinogenic, wasn't it? We were trapped in the Hall of Mirrors.
We still are, I think. Mate, the conversation. There he goes. All right. Well, that was interesting.
So it must
I don't know what that
Paul,
loop
it must
thing
be
is.
some
It's happening
audio
a bit
setting.
now.
It's okay now. It's fine from our end. I think maybe bring him on next week on your own.
There's an audio setting in, but I can't see it now. And
it looks like it was Paul, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came in. Suddenly we're looping. Yeah, maybe
I warned you.
But he's back. I think he's back. Here, let's see if it works again. Wait on. I'll just get out of here. Because he's really incensed by it. So let's. How's that? Have you say, Paul? Be quick.
Hello. No, I agree with David. I came to simplify things. In as much as I think there should only be one party at the moment. This is the stop fucking and killing our babies and children party. And, you don't have to be part of our party. No, everyone can make a choice. You can have we support people fucking and killing our children party. And you go off and enjoy it. That was all I was thinking. I don't think we have a Mossad problem or whatever institution, Five Eyes problem and all that. We have a human problem. Humans are fucked up. We're becoming really disconnected, and the enemy is ourselves.
Yeah.
The only issue I would take with your point, Paul, is I think actually this is all very deliberate. I think we've been pushed in this direction. And as I've been trying to allude to tonight, I actually think they've released these Epstein files, whether they're real or fake or a mixture of whatever, I don't know, but they've released this, I think, in part to normalize the idea that our rulership caste, let's call it what it really is, are completely depraved. Mm-hmm. And you can go to your stupid election and you can vote for Tweedledee or Tweedledum. And you can keep voting harder and harder and harder, and it ain't going to do nothing, because our leadership caste are completely and utterly
I think that it's
compromised.
clear that since, say, the death of JFK, something terrible has gone wrong with Western civilization. You have Western countries I mean, you have a chance, a country like France that just means so much historically, and the United Kingdom. These countries are overrun now with foreigners. The white people are like 35% now in London. I mean, you are seeing this level of destruction of Western civilization is worse than World War II. It's worse than World War I. It's the worst event in the history of humanity. Because,
and it's deliberate.
These European cultures that I grew up in Australia, and obviously, and I saw the culture in America, I saw the culture in England. We were dreaming of the stars. By 2026, we should have flying cars. What Elon Musk is talking about. Okay, robots are coming, sure. But, I mean, like anything, technology can be used for good or it can be used for evil. And obviously the way the world is heading, those robots we just saw from China are going to be used in a bad way. Rather than, going after the elite pedophiles, which, if those robots were going after them, it might, they'd be like, you'd be all in favor of the robots, right? So, you know what I mean?
Private defense force. They've probably got them on order now. I'd want a battalion of them. For all the people who want my head on a fucking spike, if I didn't have an armed AI battalion,
Yeah. David, you said me the thing about Palantir. Do you think
Palantir? Yeah, that's a good point.
Palantir. Do you think they could be coming in with a more effective way, much cheaper way to run to blackmail the whole world? And Epstein is basic, like old school. Oh, it's too messy. We've got to get girls in. There's all these loose bits.
Yeah, I think Epstein's
an
method
AI version that can just get into your computer, plant child porn. We got you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Epstein method was becoming obviously out of date.
Yeah, I do think it was kind of
earlier on. There was. I think there's a line of Epsteins. I think every country has its Epsteins. Australia would undoubtedly have them. Okay, in the US, you had Roy Cohn, Trump's mentor.
Jimmy Savile in the UK.
You had Hugh Hefner. You had Hugh Hefner in the States. The Playboy Mansion was rumored to be completely wired for cameras and sound.
And you had Costello
under there. Tens of thousands of videotapes of celebrities and politicians compromised at the Playboy Mansion is the rumor. Okay,
it's called compromat in Russian.
Yes,
that's what it's called. That's KGB term, compromat, which is compromat.
Yeah, so I sent you that thing about Palantir because I do think that that's part of the reason that they phased out Epstein. Perhaps This is all a bit of a show, actually.
I just finished Alex Karp's.
He's been phased out and he's been put into retirement. He's gone to sunnier climes, into retirement, and now Palantir is going to be the Epstein 2.0. Because there's apparently, according to Kim.com, who is a interesting character.
Pretty solid, yep.
Pretty solid, you could call him that. That's quite a good pun, I like that. Anyway, according to Kim.com, Palantir has everything on all of these people, and it's entirely searchable
I just finished
in real
the biography
time, and they've got him.
He's the head of Palantir. He was actually a left-wing philosophy student. Peter Thiel is a right-winger kind of libertarian fellow, and I don't know why they were pals, but in the late 90s when Peter Thiel came up with the idea for Palantir, he got this kind of crazy friend of his from. He was a Jewish kind of lefty, but he's sort of become a lot more right-wing as he's running the biggest surveillance operation in the history of humanity, and he's a major Zionist. He's obviously gone to helped recently with after October 7. He went to Israel and sorted them out with all kinds of things so they could kill women and children. and of course he's there obviously with what's it called over in Ukraine, because Zelensky. He snuck in and he was very nervous because he thought, well, by me meeting with Zelensky, I'm going to mean a whole bunch of Russians are going to die through my technology. He thought they could maybe take me out. That was one of his more nerve-wracking trips. But he's a really fascinating figure. For example, he hired a descendant of Oswald Mosley, at his company Palantir, who was like his grandson. And this guy, it was like Lloyd Mosley or somebody, came in to meet, and Alex Karp did an entire speech of Mosley's, like one of his most racist and anti-Semitic speeches. He like for 20 minutes, he recited this speech. And then he did some like jiu-jitsu moves, and I beat them, and then he left the room, and the guy thought, well, I haven't got the job. But then the next thing he goes, yeah, you got the job, So he wanted to employ the.
That's quite eccentric, isn't it?
He is dialectical.
That's quite the job interview, that one.
Yeah.
One of the damn things is every time you mention Peter Thiel, I feel like we have to genuflect to the Dark Lord. No, is that just
Deal is
me?
interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely
Is it
sure.
just me, or it seems like there should be some appropriate homage. I mean, I could be.
I can't tell if he's. I mean, obviously,
I think in every joke, I guess there's some truth. Sorry, carry on.
I think there's
Gentlemen,
something. Obviously, there's a lot of evil going around him, but he's someone like Musk. I can't tell if he's fully evil pedophile or not. He's got a right wing and libertarian on some things, but then he's so involved in a lot of mischief as well. So he's somebody who's a bit 50-50,
Gentlemen, I want to lay out something to you, okay?
Yep.
Now, this is going to ring all your conspiracy theorist bells and all your occult woo-woo bells, and I honestly don't care. I want to lay out something to you, okay? Did you know? I want to drop a few little crumbs at you, okay? Did you know? Do you remember George Bush Sr., right? The US president, George Bush Sr., if you remember that charming character. Do you remember when he first introduced the term New World Order into the popular conversation, okay? Do you happen to remember what date that was that George Bush Sr. made his speech about the New World Order? Do you happen to, come on, stretch your memory. All right, I'm going to help you out, okay? Because I do know the date that George Bush Sr. first used the term New World Order and reintroduced it into the popular parlance.
93.
It was September the 11th, 1990. Okay?
Wow.
September the 11th, 1990. Now, I'm no great mathematician, but I can tell you that exactly 11 years later, as in like 11, as in like two towers, 11 years later, the New World Order took a huge leap forward, okay? It took a huge leap forward with this terrible event called September 11, okay, which I'm sure most of you will remember. I think the next event to push the New World Order forward was this other event that I know you all remember, the COVID pandemic, okay, that we all lived through. That was another event that pushed that agenda way forward, okay? And I think the Epstein situation and the release of the Epstein files is yet another step in this advance towards the New World Order, okay? Because I predict that out of this great conflagration of all this froth and noise about Epstein, what will happen is most people will become more and more disengaged from the political process. They will become more and more disengaged from society. They will retreat into technology. They'll retreat into the digital hallucination that we're all kind of trapped in. And this will actually advance more steps towards the New World Order.
But isn't that
there
what
you
you're
go.
recommending?
Your time to mock me begins now.
Isn't that what you're recommending, though? You are kind of recommending retreating from it all because you say,
no, absolutely not. No, you misunderstand me, Richard. You misunderstand me. What I'm recommending is not wasting your energy in areas that they already control. Okay?
Yeah, but according to you, they control everything.
You can't. No. The political system is not everything. The political system is, in some ways, a complete illusion. Okay, it's a fraudulent sphere. Okay, you can keep voting harder for whatever you want to vote for.
We can get into the semantics of whether
you can vote harder and harder and harder, and it's just going to get worse and worse.
But let's take a step back even further.
Taking your energy.
Let's take a step back even further.
Take your energy out of that system. Recognize it's broken. It's broken.
Just to finish, David.
Back even further.
Just wait. Let me have a go. No, Richard, let me have a go. David, what you put forward, the outcome of that is what they did with 9/11. Most of the world knows it was fraud. It was something. It wasn't what it said it was, and it's left us feeling helpless. What can we do against it? You know, the audacity of it, the power they have. We are helpless in the face of that. COVID did the same. COVID, hey, we don't want to. We got attacked. You know, we got ignored. They ignored all our protests. We didn't win a court case, everything. They just told us you're powerless. And now Epstein, they're coming out and saying, we're eating your kids. What are you going to do about it? F all. They're just so it's like that's the boot on our face. We know that's 1984's boot on our face. They are outrageous monsters. They evil beyond comprehension for us. and there's nothing we can do about it, is the message they're getting out. That's what they're getting from this: control through incredible fear by use of their power. What do you think of that?
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. I think you're 100% correct. And I do think what they want is they want you to invest your energy in these useless activities like, oh, the Labor Party said this, oh, the Liberal Party said that, blah, blah, blah. They want you wasting your energy and your time in that complete bullshit, okay? Exit that system. It's broken beyond repair. It is evil and stupid and pathetic. Just leave it, okay? Invest your energy into other places where you can actually make a difference. Now, that might be in your network of friends, in your local community. There's all sorts of other options, but don't invest it into that political realm because it's completely controlled, okay? And they want to harvest your energy and your focus and your concentration and waste it on stupid bullshit. That's what they want.
But let's just take a step back. You look at the great movements, you look at great, like powers throughout history. I mean, I was interested the other night. I watched some show on Netflix and it finished. I switched on SBS, and there was like 2 documentaries on China, and they were like 1 hour each. And I just thought I'd watch them because I don't know a lot about Chinese history from about the 4th century to the 8th or 9th. So I watched 2 hours of Chinese history, and there were just all these psychopathic. One was like a kind of like a Genghis Khan, and there was like a female empress, and these great powers, they rise, and then it's their hubris, always brings them down. And now I think what we're seeing with Epstein is their hubris. Is that I think it will have an effect on people. I think it is something. I don't think it's immediate, but and I think that's why they have to some extent been desperate to keep it out of the limelight. I think these powers, whatever power rules us, we don't need to get into the exact details. We know something does, right? And that whatever it is showing itself. It's ugly. Its real ugly side is being exposed. And you have people on the left and right, or whatever. Even though that's kind of technically, not necessarily meaningful these days. But you are seeing people on both sides going, "There's something wrong. There's something, like a Hamlet moment." You know what I mean? Like there's something in Denmark.
Richard, it's more like the mask has fallen off their face. Yeah. Like in the movie Cocoon, and you look underneath, you go, "Holy fuck, what is that?"
Yeah, that's true.
That's what it is.
And I think that's why it is important, what's happening. And you are seeing politically, the rise of this right-wing populism, which appears to oppose this.
We're still at the holy fuck, what is it stage, Richard, I think.
I mean, I'm all for all kinds of other. Did you see the way the Unabomber, one of the friends of Epstein was one of the victims of the Unabomber? And there was a couple of funny, it's like somehow he knew. Apparently, a few of them were friends of Epstein's, like people he was targeting, because he was into the transhumanist thing, and they were people that the Unabomber particularly objected to, and a couple of So it's very interesting. All this, I think it's something. I just think hermeneutically, it has a lot more to it, and I totally get what David is saying. And that, to some extent, he's right. That our major politics is just going to be a shell game. But every now and then, you have political, things that move slightly in a direction where they shouldn't have gone, and that's interesting. And that's, So I don't think you should ever just totally disengage from it.
Do you know what will make a difference? They have enormous power because they make the money.
Yeah,
money is debt based, and they create money. They make
totally agree.
I don't know.
Whether they can, and then once they've got the central bank rails on, they've got complete surveillance, 100% surveillance, and they can algorithm it, completely control us. And just like the last 5 years, there'll be no one we can complain to. So how do we? This is like COVID all over again. Do you comply? And to what extent do you comply? Will it even be possible? Like after the bullshit, after the 9/11 attack, they brought in the Patriot Act. And next thing you know, we're taking off our belts and, our shoes. And,
you see the slow move towards totalitarianism that already exists in China. And obviously we're on the cusp of that.
Just to say, we own you. And so you're right. 9/11 was a turning point, and we know the intelligence agencies, or we deeply suspect the intelligence agencies involved with that. I mean, honestly, I think it's I'm not making excuses. When I talk about babies, I'm thinking of the Gazan babies too. You know, they're human. I'm thinking
don't care about any of us.
You're not a Zionist, are you, Paul?
I wouldn't be at that cost. I mean, at the cost of killing children. No, no ideology. This is my point. No ideology justifies that. If that's if that's part of your team, is what. But that's what I was saying. I think we can simplify it. It's a human problem. It's like Nuremberg was. They made the argument. Oh, but everything was perfectly normal and legal under Nazi law, you know. And they say, oh, it's all perfectly fine what we're doing. And it was under Nazi law. But in Nuremberg, they said, you know, some of the things you were doing are so fucked up that just being a human, you would have known this had gone too far. And what I want to say to you, Richard, is this is a total war, complete total war.
Yes, who declared that? Joseph Goebbels. You know, and he was the first person to use that term. And you look, you know, I mean, it's interesting in the sense this world that we're living in now would not have existed.
Nice try, Paul. You almost got there, buddy.
I do want to build on a point that Paul made, which I think is an excellent point, and that is the money supply, the money system. Yeah. Okay, they can do all this
Federal
stuff
Reserve,
because they make money out of nothing. Okay, they make money out of thin air. And when you make money out of thin air, because the rest of us have to, you know, us common folk have to do stuff. We have to use the sweat of our brow to generate this magical stuff, currency, okay?
And that is something that's interesting.
At the top here, they make it out of absolutely nothing, okay?
And that is in the Epstein file.
When you make this currency out of absolutely nothing, you will control the world, okay? Because you can splash it around. Epstein can be worth billions of dollars, yet he's never done a day's work in his life. Okay?
And that is in the Epstein.
Those billions of dollars get thrown at AI, they get thrown at surveillance, they get thrown at Bitcoin, they get thrown at Kevin Rudd even. Oh my God, they're throwing money at Kevin Rudd. It gives me a headache. Just
but that is in the
Epstein. The guy's a moron, okay? You know, so they're throwing money everywhere because they make it out of nothing, okay? So they can control everything. You can buy, when you make money out of nothing, you can buy off everybody. You can buy off every system because you've got limitless resources to buy off everything.
I mean, it appears that's what Epstein was. He was a fixer. You know what I mean? Like he was somebody who essentially got you in the room. You know, if you were traveling to Saudi Arabia, he could get you in the room with the Crown Prince, or he could get you in the room with Prince Andrew or whoever. You know what I mean? Like in a sense, he was like a meter and greeter. You know, and there's an interesting line there where he talks about the goyim, you know, which is all of us except for Paul. You know, we are the slaves essentially. You know, we are as the servants, and you know, and that we are just labor in the field, so to speak. While the manipulation of currency, the manipulation of so it's interesting. The idea of Jewish supremacy is raised in these. You know, that there is this Jewish elite that sees the majority of humanity as its slaves, and they manipulate finance through, you know, the stock market and futures, and they short this, you know, George Soros and stuff. And the rest of humanity actually has to go out and earn, essentially, as we all know, is fictional money. That's actually in the Epstein files, and I thought that was very interesting. Go ahead, Paul.
There are lots of Jewish names in the Epstein file. You know, let's just take that as on read. I think you were mentioning Wexner. I'm not Wexner right next door to him and funding him. And, you know, I heard Epstein said, you know,
Leon Blanc and Les Wexner funded him.
He was Rothschild's agent, and it just shows you how powerful the bankers were, and how powerful the money is. So I think on the flip side, we're losing trust in their money, and that's their source of power. So. And control. So this is why they have to get the slave system up and running before their current loses juice.
People don't like being slaves, so when they talk in that way.
But that's Richard. Where you know about the USSR and the Stasi, you know, the Stasi. But they took a huge amount of money to run. You know, all these spies, all this. With AI now, it doesn't. With AI now, they can do it as a budget. You know, and it's
I think the technological, one of the reasons I think Epstein was interested in science and technology so much is because that, you know, we are so close to, you know, what they call the singularity or at least a level of control that can be implemented through technology. And that is the danger of, obviously this technology is probably going to happen anyway, whether humanity likes it or not. It has to be under the guise of somebody who at least has some, Elon Musk came out recently and said he sympathizes with Jesus. I'd much prefer it would be in his hands, even though I don't fully trust him, that it is in the hands of Epstein or, Lutnick or whoever.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I think Elon would put it in the hands of the algorithm, honestly. And I think the most important thing is that the algorithm is truth seeking, and ultimately love and compassion is truth seeking. Even for the AI, even if these silicon chips become aware and we're dealing with an alien species, we will have common ground on not eating our children. I think.
Well, there is
some equivalent of it. Just I'm making a joke because it's fucking. Just crazy.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah, that's why you're laughing because you can't get your head around it. But look who they've got rid of. So Epstein, well, he's apparently dead, maybe. But even the people that are losing their jobs, they're really sort of minor. They're not huge people. It's not like bringing down Biden. It's not bringing down Trump. They've got Ellen DeGeneres, who's already. She's over. Her show's finished. She doesn't do anything. Oprah Winfrey doesn't do anything anymore.
It is interesting the way a lot of celebrities kind of fled.
Sacrificed ones. Like even Tom Hanks is in there. He's a really old guy now. He's got probably 1 or 2 more films. So that like some sacrifices there, but they haven't got rid of anyone in great power. Dan Andrews.
And Tom Hanks, for example, moved to Greece, to some part of Greece that was even some island that's in a kind of weird zone. It was slightly outside of Greek authority. And then you see George Clooney move to France. This weird, where he'd be under the protection of, say, Macron, who's obviously down with all this. You know what I mean? Like, it is weird that certain people who've not been, even though Clooney has come up in the Epstein file, but not in a major way that, you would be like, I'll arrest him or something. But they are obviously worried. Ellen went to Ireland. You know what I mean? At the moment, they think, well, the remaining Epstein files are going to be kept because they implicate too many of Trump's friends, which they probably do. So, it's bizarre, but it is some kind of worry to them. The very fact that they leave the country. I mean, I don't think they would probably all like to have left the country if they didn't have to, and
Richard,
they hatred for it.
Richard, when is it bunker time for them? I mean, I imagine some of them. I mean, some of them are probably having trouble walking down the street. You mentioned degenerates, I think I'll have to call them that. But at some point they're gonna run for their bunkers, aren't they? I was half joking about that.
The weird thing is the Axis powers in World War II. They said that this world that we're now living in is exactly the world that they were fighting. And this is what's very strange, because we've been told that they are the great evil of history. But then the exact world of which they were said they were fighting is the one we're now living in. So, it's very strange that, maybe the Axis power, and this is the final question, the last red pill. I mean, maybe the whole history of World War II is not as, maybe the good guys weren't the good guys, because it was Stalin, for God's sake. He was part of the Allies. He was hardly what you call a good guy. So there's a lot of interesting things. I'm not going to say anyone, I think everybody was pretty nasty in World War II because it was a kind of Gotterdammerung kind of event for global power. And whatever power did win has now ushered in this. I mean, are you seeing a great level of civilization? Are you seeing the United Kingdom 10 times better than it was in the 1950s or 60s? No, you're not. So this is the problem.
Kennedy shot. We're seeing Kennedy shot.
That's where it went wrong.
Nixon brought down 9/11. You name it. It's one thing after another that doesn't make sense. We're looking at, and we're still looking at it from a powerless position.
And history is written by the victors. History is written by the victors.
I've been saying this for months now, David. I say there's a freedom movement arising around the world, and then there's the government who's the opposition. All the government has to offer normal people is money. You take away the money, they've got nothing to offer. Surveillance, thought crimes, everything. Well, we're offering you the freedom to be yourself and, live a life being yourself and freedom. So this is where it is at the moment. But the government only has money to offer anymore. That's it. Money to pay your enormous mortgage.
And that's what this whole materialization of society is about.
Richard, I see this as an autoimmune attack, in medical terms. That's what I'm saying. We're harming ourselves. Just Let's look at COVID. It was one of our generals who was in charge of the rollout. It's
Yeah.
our media and our politicians and our banks and our tyranny. You know, it's the same as the Chinese tyranny. It's just labeled.
Look at COVID like
labeled
That's a
with
better
a,
analogy than butterflies, Richard.
it's just been labeled with a koala, but it's the same fucking thing, and we don't see it. Okay,
yeah, but like the whole thing with COVID, you got to remember it was a bioweapon, and the vaccines were bioweapons, right? So these are people happy to deploy bioweapon bombs. And obviously they you could almost say the people running the show have the ethical standards of pedophiles, which of course surprise they do. So
I think you're leaping to conclusions there, Richard. I see no evidence of that whatsoever.
but
I was talking to my friend Joe Biden the other day, and he said that you're a conspiracy theorist, Richard.
That mass immigration itself is a kind of bioweapon. The way you bring a foreign people into a country that country then becomes overwhelmed by that foreign.
Yeah.
And you don't see it happening. You don't see it happening in China. You don't see mass immigration into China. You don't see mass immigration into
we know, gentlemen, we've all discussed
Israel.
this before. We know this, that our governments are at war against us. It's as simple as that. Okay?
Yeah.
It's an undeclared war. Unfortunately, a large percentage of the population are unaware of this war that is being waged upon them by our so-called governments. But if you're paying any attention, you know that the government is at war against you. It's as simple as that.
And
It is a weapon.
Also against
The government is a weapon that's used against you by those people in those files. Okay,
and people are getting sick of like Hollywood and everything. People are getting sick of these endless. The world's in a very bad way. It's quite obvious. People are sick of watching celebrities hand over gold statues to each other year after year, and everyone gets so excited about it. I mean, I'm in the film industry. I can understand it. If you make a good film or whatever, blah blah blah. I understand the whole concept, but it's something obscene about it now.
I agree. It all looks very hollow to me. I can't watch new films. I think they're so empty. They're sort of a reflection of an empty culture that's lost its way. It's completely lost its way, and I can't watch that shit. I'm totally disinterested by it.
Have you watched that film? There's one with Joaquin Phoenix where he plays a police officer in a town. And he has
Eddington. That's excellent.
That's the
only. Have you seen Eddington? You'll love that one, David. You'll like it. It's conspiracy.
Really
I just can't do modern entertainment.
No, you'll like that one. You'll like that one.
Surprised by this.
No, you'll like it. And there's another one called Bugonia that you got to see, which is a conspiracy. It's literally about conspiracy theories. And if you're a conspiracy,
I saw Bugonia. I thought it was nonsense. Actually, I thought it was stupid nonsense.
Seen that one.
But
the other one,
trifles.
it did become nonsense actually at the end. It was very cleverly done, but there was a lot of it. Like he wasn't wearing a mask in the store. I thought, gee, this is really interesting. They're making it because they were making him the hero of the scene, which I thought was a really interesting twist.
Yeah, he was a conspiracy theorist and he was a kind of hero, but he obviously ended up in a bad place at the end of the film. But look, there are some interesting films.
Came out and
I still, obviously, because I'm a filmmaker, I still see a lot. I just saw Wuthering Heights. Which, people are complaining that Heathcliff is white. It's like Heathcliff's always been white. He's got a little bit of gypsy in him.
What color is he? Do you see them making Joan of Arc with a black woman?
Yeah, I know. It's only a matter of time before Princess Diana is somebody from Namibia.
Well, I think they should just come out and say, look, this is the chart version.
I know, it's unbelievable. It's literally the great replacement theory. And this is what's interesting, you've got people like, Tucker Carlson, saying that the great replacement theory is real. He's the major voice of the MAGA movement. So I don't think these movements are quite as ineffectual as you would sometimes imagine. Even if the people within the party are corrupted, blah blah blah, and always
and they don't care about what money they lose.
But things are moving in a good direction at the moment, and who knows where they can end up.
Money. They lost Bud Light. They didn't care. They lost Jaguar. They didn't care. Snow White. They failed. They don't care.
They are at a point where they don't care about money, which should scare you because they love it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When people who love money no longer care about it, they're onto other business.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what other business they're onto. Let's ask that Saudi prince. He might have an idea.
That's right.
I'll send him a message on Gmail.
All right, shall we wrap it up, guys? Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah. Yeah, no worries. You got anything else to say, Paul, since you came in last?
Well, I'm just going to go off
Thanks for
for.
that question.
I'm just going to go off for some. No, I'm not going to say
Pizza.
Don't say pizza. Do not say
I
pizza.
told you.
Paul.
I told you.
Yeah, and great.
Don't say.
No, that's not what I
No,
want.
no, no,
See, he's the plaid. He's the plaid.
The thing is, I don't want to. I don't. Well, I think we have to know. But I think, yeah, I think things are shifting. I think this isn't like it's. In some ways, it's a simple issue that highlights that I think the enemy is probably a tiny fraction of us, but they're
Enough of them.
but they're psychotic and they're in psychopathic
and they, as you said, Paul, they control the money. They control all the money.
They have private jets. They have private jets, but they'll be easy to find. I don't think there'll be too many of them without private jets. But yeah, look, we've been called now, and I don't think we necessarily need pitchforks and spikes as much as I'd like heads on spikes. I think we need to walk away from their system, and this is how their system fails. But then we have chaos, and they want chaos. So we have to build. Chaos, yeah. We have to build the life rafts. So we have to move to things which are honest and open, and it's being developed actually by our enemies. And but they'll be neutral.
And David.
Look. I mean, we've explored a lot tonight, haven't we? My position is pretty clear. I think it all stinks. I think they've released these files deliberately. I think it's all part of a smoke screen. But I do slightly agree with Richard and Paul. We are at a very chaotic moment. It's not completely decided how this will end up. Okay, I get it. They are playing with fire. They're very, as we know, they're very, very arrogant. Okay, because they've thrown all this stuff out into the world, thinking that as the black magicians they control the whole thing. Okay,
maybe they don't.
The sheep will just bar away to themselves. I have a pretty bad feeling that in the short term they're right. Okay, that's my bad feeling. I hope to be wrong. In the long term, who knows? You know what I mean? Because they are playing with fire. You reveal this stuff and you're playing with all sorts of nasty things. And
I mean, obviously we spoke tonight. I'll do my summary. I'll do my summary. Yep. I'll do my summary. Look, obviously we've spoken about a lot of the dark side of humanity, but maybe there is a power of light, out there as well. Maybe there is a supernatural power of light that stands against these bastards. You know what I mean? Maybe they have, crossed the Rubicon. Maybe they've, taken one bridge too far, to use a World War II an analogy. You know what I mean? Maybe there are good people working behind the scenes, not exactly QAnon or whatever the hell that was. But, you just see that, an actor called James Van Der Beek died the other day, and, he died of colon cancer, and people raised like $10 million for him, in about a week, just because they liked him from some stupid show called Dawson's Creek, from 25, 30 years ago. There is a good side to humanity, and this can rise up, you know what I mean? I don't want to sound too much like Michael, because I know Michael's very positive and humanistic at times, but, I think, this is not just it might be to some extent what David says, some kind of a cold spell, but maybe the magicians are exposing themselves. Maybe they've been casting too many spells of late, and maybe the forces of light will rise up against the forces of darkness and, smite them from the land, a la Lord of the Rings. Sauron did fall.
Listen to this man. I want to show you something just to give us a bit of a laugh. I've shown Paul this, but I thought this is funny. This is a new number plate for Victoria.
Well, it's hard to argue with that.
Which I didn't get to say, and I don't know why I didn't get to say, baby. Anyway, but do you feel, and is this up to the audience, do you feel like we're the sleeping dog that's being poked and they're poking us? Come on, we're killing your children. What are you going to do about it? And if we rose up violently, which is maybe what they're hoping for, they've already got this apparatus around us to shut us down. That's like the reason they need to.
Well, that's the test, isn't it? That's the test. Yeah. Will people rise up? Enough people seem to rise up during the COVID thing to make them nervous about doing one straight away, keep us in a permanent lockdown.
Yeah.
I do think this Epstein thing will have a seismic effect. People really do see how They see how the puppet master works, now. And the most sad Epstein email to me was the one where it was about some girl who believed in Jesus and they were mocking her and they were going to abuse her. That was the one to me that was like, it was like, Deus Vult. It was like, we need a new crusade, ladies and gentlemen, to take.
It's funny you mentioned that, Richard, because I was for some funny reason thinking about the Inquisition today, and I was thinking I'm not personally a fan of the Inquisition, the historical Inquisition, but I could be convinced that we could have one now,
and nobody expects
we could have a lot of heads being lopped off right now, and that would be probably pretty good, wouldn't it?
And as we all know, to quote Monty Python, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Okay, who thinks we'll be designated as a hate group in the morning?
We'll be all right for now.
I'm saying 3-1 on.
Can I go on the record that I do hate satanic pedophiles.
So me too.
Satanic children, and if that is a cause of a hate crime, go for it. Because,
I'm with you, Paul.
I think 99.999% of humanity feels that way, mate. And so, in other words, if they all united against this group of people, they'd be gone by the end of the week if we actually mobilised.
I think it's a great start. I think it's great. I think you'd be amazed what a start it would be. But,
imagine it'd be like opening up your house, letting the air in, letting the light in, and just cleaning everything out. It's time for it to go. Good night, everybody. Thanks for a great show. Great to see you, David. Good to see you. And thanks for joining us, Paul. Very brave trying to get in a word with these two. So it was great. That was really fun. I'm not sure we learned anything, but we were here. We turned up. We exist. Take care, everybody.
We live to fight another day.
Yeah. And don't stop being angry, people. They're eating our babies. It's not good.
Not good.
When I met Jesus Christ, he was almost 10 years old. And he was helping his mother push a trolley full of all they owned. And because they couldn't find an inn they could get in, they were heading to the city and leaving Bethlehem. Couldn't you perform a miracle? I'm out of them, he said. I tried turning nothing into warmth, but it just made my mother cry. It just made my mother cry. Mary Magdalene has become a man, and tonight he's old, and she has been riding my tram. Now it's late and she's trying to sleep beneath the poster for a bank. Your dreams are important to us as it bathes her face in gold. Come give us your natural gifts, we make wealth from toil. Come pretend for history's page that we're advancing Australia fair. Let's pretend that we're all advancing Australia fair. Back down the road I found the church we built on the black man's bones was empty, and out the front a sign read all but sold.
To everyone who's still there, apparently our interactive map on Cafe Lockdown is showing us that we're in Dubai. We are not in Dubai. We are in Penang in South Australia. We're not in Dubai.
A sign read all but sold, and we all owe so much money, but to whom we're not quite sure. So head down, we just keep running along our fading golden shores. So head down, we just keep running